Good evening. I'm Ron Furlong. I'm the Executive Director of the Amherst Area Chamber of Commerce. And this evening we are here with Mr. Bill Archer, who is the candidate in the federal election 2021 with the People's Party of Canada. And he's joined us tonight to answer a series of questions submitted by individuals to the Chambers of Commerce that they were interested in having an answer to. I'll now turn it over to Mr. Archer to do his introduction. Please proceed.
I'd like to thank Ron and the Amherst Area Chamber of Commerce for giving me the opportunity to answer the questions that were in the previous Chamber of Commerce debate the other night. I'm Bill Archer, and I'm running on behalf of the People's Party of Canada to represent you as your Member of Parliament. We are a centre-right party and a safe party to vote for if your concerns are the issues that affect us here in Cumberland, Colchester. I am focused on short and long-term solutions for our infrastructure, environment, and the ways in which we can help our businesses thrive and grow here in Cumberland, Colchester, such as eliminating interprovincial trade barriers. Successive Liberal and Conservative governments have failed to address this crucial issue that would generate billions of dollars annually within our country alone. Both Liberals and Conservatives have also adopted an approach to budgets balanced themselves amazingly. As we see in today's paper, there's 4.1% inflation, which takes away our purchasing power and our ability to buy things. The Bank of Canada has also insinuated talks about an interest rate hike. The runaway spending and doubling of the debt will hurt our economy for some time, and the Liberals, supported by the NDP and Greens and the Conservatives, want to spend more. Our economy doesn't need stimulus. It needs the government to get out of the way and let business do business. COVID has hit our small and medium-sized businesses exceptionally hard. I still have failed to hear an explanation from Liberal and Conservative governments how a business like Walmart could stay open, yet our small business owners could not. I believe that these businesses within our community could have implemented the same safety measures of distancing, masking, hand sanitizer far better than any big box store can. Now the Liberal and Conservatives want vaccine mandates, which will increase the amount of overhead and paperwork that small and medium businesses will have to deal with, not to mention the potential for lawsuits and human rights complaints. We need to realize, as the WHO has recently stated, COVID is a part of our community and our environment, and now we will have to learn to live with it. Continuing restrictions and lockdowns will not only kill more small business, it will damage our economy and of our country for years to come. No more redundant studies. We are not like the Liberals and Conservatives who say one thing and do another. We need to find local solutions to local issues. Unfortunately, a vote for the other parties is the opposite, as they will have their votes whipped and will do what Ontario and Quebec desire. I want to earn your vote, and the People's Party of Canada and I will be an advocate for you and not for Ontario and Quebec. Thank you, and I hope to earn your vote tonight.
Mr. Archer, we'll now move on to the question section, and you'll have 2 minutes to answer each question. You have chosen to enter this race with a goal in mind to serve the residents of Cumberland, Colchester. What do you expect to accomplish during your term as Member of Parliament?
Thank you very much for the question. I plan, if elected, to focus on the issues that I've been hearing at the doors, which are primarily issues with our crumbling infrastructure, such as our roads and the unfunded liabilities that our small towns and villages are experiencing with their municipal infrastructure. I also plan on dealing with the outstanding issues such as rural high-speed internet that has been dragging on for years now, and actually getting that accomplished. I want to actually get shovels in the ground and address issues such as our dike system that the French Acadians built 400 years ago, but yet all the other parties seem to have been doing in successive Liberal and Conservative governments is study after study rather than getting shovels in the ground. I plan to get shovels in the ground on that. I also plan to address the issues that are affecting us, such as coastal erosion, and to work with the National Builders Association to strengthen the building code to ensure that the houses that are being built today can withstand the storms of tomorrow. The others that I've been hearing in this election, such as the Conservative candidate and the Liberal candidates, they have all been promising things for healthcare. And unfortunately, I want to bring it to attention that the delivery of healthcare is under the purview of the provincial governments. From a federal level, we are responsible for health transfer payments with no strings attached and to ensure the Health Act is being followed. I'm willing to work on those things and help to work towards getting more funding for healthcare and bricks and mortar projects. Otherwise, the delivery of healthcare, I will not interfere with. I also want to work to get tough on crime to ensure things like the tragedy at Portapique does not happen again. I want to ensure that there's a proper investigation done and we get the proper answers, and criminals that break the law with firearms serve stiffer punishment. Thank you.
For your second question, how do you see the role of the business community in strengthening our communities? And what are the top 3 things that you will do as MP to encourage and support business growth in the region?
Thank you for the question. I do believe that the top issues that we're going to have that I can help with as a member of parliament is to work on number one, what I previously alluded to is eliminating the interprovincial trade barriers, as talking to business owners in the Amherst community and as far out as Tatamagouche. Some of them are finding it easier to trade internationally than they are to trade locally or into the next province. So by eliminating our barriers to trade within our own country, we unlock billions of dollars of opportunity for commerce and to boost our economy annually. The other thing that the pressing issue that I've found talking to other people in the community is still this lack of rural high-speed internet. It really holds back our smaller communities and villages from actually being able to compete properly in this global marketplace when they don't have the same tools available to them that other competing businesses do when it comes to advertising and access to the internet market. The other thing that comes pressing that we see whenever we're driving around the area, as I've driven all from one end of the Riding to the other, is the fact that we do need investment into our infrastructure. It is old, it is crumbling, and we need to help with issues such as our liabilities in our small towns and communities. Like the towns of Spring Hill and Parsboro, for example, they've had to dissolve themselves as towns due to that large unfunded liability. And then with the water and sewer upgrades, you have residents and businesses paying these extra tax rates for water and sewer annually now. I'd like to see from a federal level if there's some way I can assist with easing that burden, because to attract new businesses, we have to be in a competitive market. So I will work with our provincial and municipal governments to help to see how we can address these issues to put us in a better position to even attract new business, not just maintain and help our current businesses thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Archer, across the country, there are housing shortages for people of all walks of life. There's a dire need for more housing options in Cumberland, Colchester. What's your party's plan to assist in increasing housing inventory, along with making it easier for people to purchase or build new homes?
Thank you. That's a great question. I've been hearing that catchphrase a lot during this election, affordable housing. The first thing we will have to do in order to address a housing issue is to define what affordable housing actually is. Because what is considered affordable housing in Toronto isn't considered affordable housing in Halifax. And what's considered affordable housing in Halifax is not affordable housing up here in Amherst, Truro, or Spring Hill, or Pugwash, or Tatamagouche. So in saying that, we also have the issue in our area of having some of the highest property tax rates within Canada. So in order to attract builders, because the private sector has to fill this need, and in order to find builders, we're going to have to work, as an MP, I would have to work with all levels of government, both provincial and municipal, so we can address the various issues. And that's after we define what actually affordable housing is. As I alluded to in my earlier answer, when it comes to things like that, the huge unfunded liabilities that Parsboro and Spring Hill face, that puts them in a negative position when it comes for somebody looking for a place to build, because a lot of municipalities, and I won't say specifically which one does what, but when you get a rental property, or if I took my house, for instance, where I'm paying $2,500 or $1,500 a year in property tax here in Amherst, if I added a rental space within that property, lots of municipalities in their bylaws, now that there are 2 civic addresses on that property, there's 2 tax rates. Well, when you start adding those in and then combining that with water and sewer in the areas like Spring Hill and Pugwash, you have a compounded problem now, because there's that extra cost because they had to upgrade their sewer and water. And we have to address those together from all levels of government so we can be competitive and actually attract the builders to build the properties and the housing that we need here in Cumberland, Colchester.
Mr. Archer, question number 4. COVID debt, climate change costs, the need to repair our aging infrastructure. The costs are going up all around us. Our economic growth has flatlined for the past 25 years. A serious, bold strategy to grow our economy is our only way forward. What is your party's plan to pay for this?
Thank you for the question. As I said in my introduction, it was released today by the Bank of Canada that the interest rate, or the rate of inflation, was 4.1% today. The experts predicted a 3.9% interest rate or inflation rate at this point. So essentially what that means is, we've all heard it many times, and I will break the ice right now, that either Liberal or Conservative government after this election are going to say things are worse than they anticipate. And what that means for businesses as well as individual consumers and everybody in this riding is we have less money to spend. Things are going to cost more, and our money isn't going to go as far yet again. My party is the only one that doesn't believe that budgets balance themselves. You have a Liberal plan that seems to spend like there's no tomorrow, and the Conservative promises and plan are in 10 years they'll get back to balance, but in their estimates they've said their growth rate for Canada will be 3%, when all the actual specialists like the Bank of Canada and the Parliamentary Budget Officer calculate that at 3.7% or 1.7%, I'm sorry. So they're using magical numbers with no explanation of how they've almost doubled the growth from the professionals for the country for the next 10 years. Like I say, my party will balance the budget within one mandate, and we will do it through targeted cuts in spending. As my leader Maxime Bernier said, one example would be cutting the funding to CBC, which is $1.4 billion a year, and cutting back on giving money to countries around the world that are basically dictatorships, which will save us approximately $10 billion a year, and also eliminating corporate welfare, which is 20 to 30 billion a year. And that's without raising taxes or cutting any of the programs that we've come to expect as Canadians. Thank you.
Mr. Archer, Nova Scotia is playing a leadership role in Canada in the fight against climate change, primarily through the work of Efficiency Nova Scotia. The federal government to date has been very supportive of this, yet there's a concern the push to reduce fossil fuel usage will have a dramatic impact on our transportation and manufacturing sectors. What will your party do to balance our economy with climate change action?
Thank you for the question. This is a really good question, and it has some pretty in-depth answers, actually. As a matter of fact, Nova Scotia as a province in 2016 met the 2030 Paris Climate Accord targets. We had met the reduction goals for emissions, and we were leading Canada, as the question states. Ironically, Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party in 2016 passed their carbon tax law that forced Nova Scotia to either take a carbon tax or adapt a carbon cap and trade system. The government of the day provincially chose cap and trade, and we led Canada with the most efficient cap and trade program. The issue becomes that the way the carbon tax is implemented by the Liberal Party, Ottawa gets to arbitrarily set what rates and levels we have to set, and can change the goalposts and raise the tax rate at any time without any notice. There is no power in the province to be the leader of their own destiny. Also, the Conservative plans that they have announced and implemented is still a carbon tax that starts at $20 a ton and goes to $50 a ton, which ironically is exactly how the Liberal plan started in 2019, which is now going to $130 a ton by 2030. With that said, my party doesn't believe in carbon taxes. We believe in focusing on the issues that we can address here locally with our environment, and working with our partners to develop new technologies and new skills that will help to mitigate the effects of a changing climate. Here locally, I've alluded to already, is fixing the dike system and targeting coastal erosion, and dealing with improving our building codes so our houses of today can withstand the storms of tomorrow. Thank you.
For our next question, with more of our population retiring than joining the workforce, we need to retain and attract additional people to enter the workforce. We're currently at a workforce crisis where many businesses are limiting hours due to lack of staff. What are your solutions or plan for addressing the workforce challenges?
Oh, thank you for the question. Talking to a lot of different business owners and people at the doors throughout the riding, what I found is that this comes back to yet again is the issues we've had with our aging infrastructure and lack of high-speed internet as a beginning to be a barrier to attract people into our riding and attracting them to stay. Another issue that I have heard from some business owners is, the unintended consequences that have happened with the Canadian Emergency Relief Benefit that has been provided by the Liberal government, as some people are choosing to stay on that rather than take the jobs that are available for the people in our riding. These issues, I believe, have to be addressed first and foremost. When it comes to actually helping people join the workforce and being able to attract and retain them, that's going to come with working with both our provincial and our municipal leaders and our local businesses, and working together to ensure that we have the proper training and tools available to ensure that our youth that are here, or people that we want to attract to the area, have the necessary tools and training to be able to fulfill all the needs and the positions available for the jobs that are outstanding within our community. I do firmly believe that our targeted immigration plan to bring in the people with skills we need is also going to be required. But we have to make sure that we're giving our opportunities to our people in our area first to have all the tools necessary to fill these positions. The temporary foreign worker program is helping to fill a gap, but we do need to ensure the proper infrastructure and tools are there and available for those that need them, so we can be successful together. Thank you.
Mr. Archer, question number 7. Our international competitors are working to improve their performance and create good jobs for their citizens. We know that to succeed in the face of fierce competition, we must reduce trade barriers and generate sustained business investment, jobs, and growth here, not just in the short term, but for many years. How will you achieve this?
Thank you. And thank you for the question. The biggest thing I think that will help with helping us grow and sustain ourselves first is eliminating our barriers to trade interprovincially. When we're having as much difficulty as I've heard from business owners about trying to trade just across the border in Amherst, which is, 10 kilometers away to get to Sackville, and just to sell the same product across the border, we're defeating ourselves here. We actually need to eliminate these barriers and unlock the full potential of our economy within our country. And that will help us to strengthen ourselves and become more stronger and efficient so we can compete in a global scale. We also have to do the things with working with each other and the different levels of government and across the aisle with people to actually get things done here. We can't keep kicking the can down the road when it comes to issues such as the dike system and the mitigation and fortification efforts that we need to do to maintain our link to Canada that provides $50 million a day in trade. We also need to address the things such as our rural high-speed internet so we can actually compete and have the communication on the global scale necessary to help sustain our small towns and villages. I also have heard from some of the smaller villages and executives attached to them into the towns and villages of their issues with numerous government programs that would help to fund various projects to help them be efficient and grow, yet not having the staff or this ability to go through the bureaucracy to get access to this funding. As your MP, I would definitely work with my team and my staff to ensure that we can help to ensure that we can bring as much of that funding necessary to our riding and to our towns and villages to help us prepare for today and for the growth of tomorrow. Thank you.
With a wide variety of agricultural crops and animals produced in Cumberland, Colchester, what could you do to support an increase in processing in this region to grow a sustainable local economy along with increasing food security?
Thank you for the question. I was actually in the Linden area last night talking to some of our agricultural producers and farmers, and one of the big issues that I know resounded with them was, yet again, this barrier to trade that we have, that they can produce their vegetables and their meat here in Linden or bring it to the Amherst area, but there's barriers that prevent them from trading across the country and selling across the country. There's also things such as their high-speed internet, which prevents them from actually creating an online page to give them access to let people know that they're actually selling their products or what the products are they have available. So part of the solution is working on the infrastructure and eliminating these trade barriers to make sure, one, they're able to get their product not only to market, but they can let people know their product is there. As their MP, I would promote food security and access by working with Health Canada, as they have a new nutrition guide. I would trying to work with other partners to create a national infrastructure based off the food guide. So when they recommend foods on the food guide, it will show you where your local suppliers are of that. So you can go promote our local efficiency more. I mean, at the same token, I would work hand in hand yet again with our local leaders at various levels of government to ensure that we implement initiatives that promote our own government and various levels from buying local before we're buying externally where possible. After that, I would work with the farmers and the agriculture groups, as they're the ones that know how to do sustainable farming properly, and work with them to ensure they have the proper tools that they need. Thank you.
Our question number 9. By when do you believe the CRA should have completed a review of their principles and guidelines, and what are the most critical areas they need to address?
Well, that's a very interesting question, actually, and the People's Party is the only party with a unique approach to it. The current tax law that we have in Canada is approximately 3,800 pages. And the majority of that is from successive Liberal and Conservative governments pandering to certain groups or donors to give them unique tax breaks and advantages for rewarding them for supporting them and giving them their vote. The People's Party of Canada actually has a platform and a policy where we will eliminate that tax law and replace it with a simplified tax law and structure, where there would be zero tax on the first $15,000 of income. From $15,000 to $100,000, it would be 15%, and anything above $100,000 would be taxed at 25%. We also have plans to lower taxes to businesses and companies and make everything equal for everybody, which is, I know it sounds like a unique idea, but that's what we are planning. So this simplified tax system for the CRA to complete a review and look over what they're doing would be relatively little time by comparison to what they have to deal with today due to successive Liberal and Conservative governments pandering. Thank you.
The last question we have for you, Bill, is investments in digital infrastructure. Canada can tap into vast economic and human potential in rural communities. How will your party invest in affordable digital infrastructure to spur on economic development in disadvantaged rural areas?
Thank you for the question. And infrastructure has been one of the key planks in what I've heard at the doors during this election. And if elected, I'm finally going to seek action on attaining rural internet. I know that there's been many promises from the Liberals and the Conservatives in regards to this, but there's been very little action done. There has not been very much in the way of boots on the ground, and what rural internet is available currently is extremely high priced. My goal is to get the funding that was announced and ensure that the things are put in place to provide this internet and help our rural communities. I have talked to teachers that work at River Hibbert High that even their cell reception is spotty at the best of times. We can work with our cell providers to not only provide adequate cell service for these rural areas, such as River Hibbert, which many of us don't consider that rural, to not only provide the cell coverage for them so they actually have cell reception, but also to provide the high-speed internet that we need for our youth and our businesses. This is a very important issue for me that I will work with our provincial MLAs and our municipal leaders to ensure that we get this implemented in a timely fashion, rather than just being talking points in an election. I want to ensure that I'm the bill that you can afford, and I want to ensure that this work does get done and we do get what we need so we can all be successful together. Thank you.
That concludes our question part of the program. The last part of the program is the ability for closing remarks. And you have 3 minutes for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to again thank Ron and the Amherst Area Chamber of Commerce for allowing me the time tonight to answer the questions that have been submitted by people in our business community, and hopefully I've provided the answers that you would like, and I was able to earn your vote. I do still believe that the people I'm talking to at the door and the businesses that I have talked to in discussions, that we have very important issues such as our crumbling infrastructure and the need for rural high-speed internet, and the need to ensure that we are in a competitive place to help with housing, working together with all levels of government to ensure that we provide the necessary tools for builders to be attracted and want to build and help our housing issues that we have currently. I also believe that we cannot do that without taking the environment into account and working on things and getting the actual funding for things like our dike systems and our coastal erosion issues that we have up and down our riding, and ensuring that our building codes are up to scratch for the increased possibility of increased storms and weather that climate change may bring into our area. And finally, I want to make sure that the people of our riding get the answers they need when it comes to the tragedy that happened at Portapique. I know this, it doesn't seem to affect the business community very much, but we need to ensure that we have stronger border measures so we can prevent this type of crime or this type of tragedy from happening again. And bringing confidence back into our area will go a long way for helping businesses and helping to attract future businesses. I am hopeful that come September 20th, you will place a vote with the People's Party of Canada and myself. And I am focused on the issues that are important to the people in our riding and the people of this area and the businesses of this area. And that's what I'm going to focus on. I will not be beholden to the will of parties such as the Liberals and Conservatives who care about voter-rich Ontario and Quebec's opinions more than they care about ours. That is what I plan to focus on. And I hope to earn your vote on September 20th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bill Archer, the People's Party of Canada, and look forward to seeing how things go on the 20th for you.
Thank you very much.
That concludes our session for this evening.